There's so many. Thank you.
You have anything? Okay, it's Wednesday, July the 14th. Call to order the Livingston Parish Citizen Drainage Committee. Get a roll call, Ms. Angie.
Mr. Sibley.
Present.
Mr. Marlar.
Present.
Mr. Clemens. Mr. Morrison. James Morrison. Ms. Pat.
Here.
Mr. Hall. Mr. House.
Here.
Mr. Harrell is absent. Mr. McMorris.
Here.
Mr. Carroll.
Here.
Mr. Valmont. Absent.
You got anything? All right, so we're going to go straight into old business. Discussion and review of problem drainage areas. So I know at our last meeting, we kind of all made a list of areas that we knew of to be issues. And 2A, we have a spreadsheet of that. So I think it was known at the time it was going to be a work in order or a work in progress. Anyone have anything to add or remarks for improvement with this, or any discussion at all?
It's a start.
Yeah, and look, if someone has an area that's a problem, you can send an email, and we will try to get it added on the list and work with whichever district gets in to try to get the problem resolved. All right, we'll move to 2B. This is our Facebook page update, and we'll go through this.
I sent you all an email yesterday, and that y'all got to look at it. So we need some suggestions, but I thought I would just start for a profile picture. I thought a pretty picture of the river or whatever, but we're open to suggestions. So if any of you or Angie have any suggestions.
What about the picture of I-12 during 16 flood where half of it was flooded and half of it was
That's
open?
fine. Send me the picture, and we'll need two. We'll have one larger one and one smaller. I thought the smaller one might be a map. But yeah, that's fine. Do you have a picture of that?
Somewhere buried when we find one between
Because we don't really want to take any that belong to someone else's page or whatever. We need permission for that. So,
And look, let me back up a little bit. All of this was approved at the last council meeting by the council.
yeah,
for
meeting
us-
before last.
For us to have a Facebook page. It's not, we recommended that.
That's right.
Should we have one? So they did approve unanimously that we could have a Facebook page. So I wanted to
Yeah.
add
Yeah.
that.
That was June 24th.
Good. Correct, June 24th.
Yeah.
Gardens Patch.
Very important. Yes. So, if any of you have any suggestions, you have one, just send me the pictures and we'll go through it.
We need a picture of a stoplight culvert somewhere in the page and show people do their part.
Fine. I think all that. And
Just show
it's not
somebody
one
their
you
part.
keep forever. You can
Yeah.
keep changing that out. And you can also post various pictures. I'm hoping we'll get some from the public.
90% of our calls in Drainage 5 is roadside drainage that we have nothing to do with, but 90% of them are, we still stop and take the grapple trucks and clean out the mouth of their culvert because they can't go out there with a rake and rake it out. But 90% of the calls we get are stop at the culverts.
Right.
But just something like that, do your part, clean your culvert.
Something might be a good idea, you have the big picture and the little inset picture.
Right.
Maybe use the citizens that send their pictures in, use that and change it out.
I think that's a
routinely
great
with
idea.
contributors' pictures.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And we can certainly post them as well in the context of the page, for sure.
And I kind of have a comment that one of my neighbors to a piece of property that I own on Portney Road, she's an elderly lady. A bunch of styrofoam cups and just trash was in the ditch on my property. So she came over, now she's elderly. I didn't see it, but one of the other neighbors told me that she was breaking to get that out and fell down the ditch. You know what I mean? So she was trying, but
I do. I clean the ditch across the street from me too. Yeah, and I think, seeing people like scouts picking up trash, others too, I think it's important that we acknowledge those people too. So if you see like something like that going on around you, I think that would certainly be something worthy to a posting. I think too, if we have some bad weather warnings out, we'll have a link for that too. There are a lot of things we can do. So please just send me all your ideas. We can do that.
You're gonna link bad weather, you can do it every night.
True. True,
This year you can.
for sure. The next is the introduction or mission statement. I'm gonna read it real quick along with you. And, if y'all are, if I think that's something we need to decide if we're gonna approve it, add to it, or whatever. It's certainly not in stone, but the Livingston Parish Citizens Drainage Committee is a collaborative effort considering the improvement of parish-wide drainage with the Livingston Parish Council, administration, municipalities, and most importantly, the citizens of Livingston Parish. Miss Angie, help me do that. Is there anything y'all would want to add to that?
I'm fine with that. Person's good.
I think it covers it well.
All right, group rules. Facebook has an area, either of things you can and you can't do. So one of the things I think is important is to sort out positive instead of you can't, more what we're expecting to post. And that would be is we're all in this together, and we understand that drainage is sometimes an emotional topic for those of us who have experienced flooding. In an effort to create a safe and welcoming environment, let's treat everyone with respect. Sharing ideas and healthy debates are encouraged, but kindness is required. Bullying, profanity, degrading comments, and threats of violence will not be tolerated. Spam, self-promotion, and irrelevant links are not allowed. Group membership and posts will be approved by the administrators of this page before posting. That's a statement that, I don't know how many of you are familiar with that or not, but that's a statement that all groups must have in order to be covered under Facebook's policy.
And nothing's out of line there, I don't see it. I mean, some of it's common sense, but we can live in a world where I realize some people don't have common sense.
Yeah, common sense is not very common these days, for sure.
It's starting to be a majority.
Sometimes I think that too. But I know Ron had brought up in your email, so you don't think those posts should be approved first?
The initial post with the comments, I think, let them post.
Oh, yeah, it is
just
the
the
comment.
post.
Well, it depends on what the post is, I think.
So I think we try to, if you try to administer all the comments, it's gonna drive somebody crazy. You know, some of those posts, they get 200-300 comments.
Yeah.
So we can easily go and delete them, and I feel like if somebody's on there being rude to me, I can suck it up until somebody gets it deleted.
I think
And-
if we do that, though, that we're opening ourselves up to being rants and raves.
Rants and raves don't.
Well, I mean, if
They
we're-
don't approve them before they do. But they
No,
do.
they don't.
But rants and raves.
They do
I rest
approve,
my
they
case.
do approve the post itself.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
all
yeah,
they
the
approve is
post
the post.
itself.
But
But
what
if somebody
comes
gets
after that,
vulgar, I mean, they get vulgar or whatever, they
Oh,
do.
yeah.
But just, their comments are comments, so they don't care. As long as it ain't vulgar or threatening, they let them fly.
oh yeah, they'll let anything fly. They don't
Yeah,
care.
and-
Well, no, if it gets,
Well,
I've seen some removed.
Yeah, let's kind of like separate that, like comments and posts. Yes, definitely posts we approve, but on the comments, I think there are some that will have to be deleted.
Oh yeah, we can delete it. What I'm saying is,
Right.
if we set the, I don't know if you can, but you set it so that we have to approve all the comments before the show,
It's gonna be too much.
that's too much. That's just gonna be too daunting.
No, it's more a concern with the post than the comment.
Yeah,
But
well, we
we-
can control the post.
Right.
Has
In
anybody
fact,
here
that's-
done administration on the page before?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you used to.
Yeah, we do, and you can delete some of those, comments, but it's more important to delete the post or
Well, you
whatever.
could set up some
And-
target words that will
Yes.
automatically get flagged and they
Yes.
won't post until they're approved.
Exactly, exactly. So I think that we'll be fine as long as we just really concentrate more on the post than Questions included for the membership. They suggest that you do this so people take time to see where they're coming from, whatever. And I have 3 listed. You can do just 1 if you want. You can do 2, you can whatever. Your thoughts?
I
on
think
that?
part of the group rule should be somewhere for Livingston Parish residents, and number 1, deleted, because they should be, if they're not, or keep it, but if their answer is no, then they can't be in this. There's no need to hear from
Yeah,
somebody
if you
from
don't,
Arkansas.
well, that's why you have the question.
So
If
I
they
don't,
say no, you don't accept the membership.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that, and I'm gonna kind of explain why. So
Okay.
so,
Developers.
well, we're gonna have people that wanna be part of our page that are gonna be work for engineering companies that may live in Baton Rouge. They may have some very insightful knowledge to help us.
Mm-hmm.
So just because they don't live in our parish.
So as an administrator, is there a way to invite somebody outside of the parish to be in it, or they can just answer yes?
Well,
Well,
we're not
Maybe it's answer
saying,
yes.
we're not saying that they have to be a member of the post, because I know I'm a member of a group in Ascension, because I like to see some of their ideas that they have.
Change it
That's
from
not
resident to
saying it.
interest.
That's not a thing you have to be a member of this group. It's just making you take up time to
That's fine. I
answer.
mean, whoever y'all want to be a part of the group. My vote is, if you're not from Livingston Parish, stay off of it. Or if
you don't have interest
or
in it.
if you don't have a positive, or if somebody just wants to see what we're doing, we don't have time for that. But if somebody like an engineer, we can invite them. That's just my vote. I'm only one of 10 people.
Well, I mean, it's just a question. It doesn't have,
Do
it
you mean
doesn't have
really
anything
live in
to do.
Livingston Parish?
I think if you don't live in Livingston Parish, you should be on
But there
this.
may be some people that
Yeah.
own property
Right.
in Livingston Parish that's impacted by
Absolutely.
flooding or
The
something, lives in.
question-
Change it from
Baton
resident to
Rouge.
interest.
But the question doesn't mean you have to be. It's to make time that they're just gonna do it. You kind of know where they're coming from. It's to slow them down so you maybe weed out some people that may not have the right motives. But it's not, it does not mean they have to live in Livingston Parish. It doesn't mean they have to list it. It's more of an information kind of thing.
So do the answers to these questions?
They
are
don't, it does
are
not
they gonna
take
mean
them out.
anything?
No,
Right.
it's to slow people down to just kind of see what you get. No,
They,
not
if
at
they
all.
invest 30 seconds in
Right.
answering these questions,
They-
rather than
they're
just
letting-
letting it go.
Right.
Okay.
No, No, I think it should be, I think a lot of people are interested. Because like I said, I'm a member of a couple other parishes, just because I want to see what's up. Okay. So do y'all want to cut back on questions? Do you want to be locations on drain? I mean, that is strictly for our information. It doesn't stop anybody from being a member of a group or anything like
I'm gonna leave that up to the admin, so.
Okay.
For my vote.
that. Okay. Okay, we need at least 2 other committee members who would like to volunteer to be administrator.
No, he said he would.
Boy.
He's already on it.
I will.
You
I don't like
will?
the first answer, but I will. And I'll follow rules.
Which answer?
I don't think if they're not from Livingston, they should be on it.
Well, we can vote
But-
on that. We can vote
but-
on that.
But I'll administer it as the rules. I'll follow the
Okay,
rules.
but I mean,
I have a comment about if you're not a resident. We have quite a few commercial businesses, and these people do not reside in Albany.
sure.
And that would, if it was a requirement, then
It's not.
that would eliminate it. So
It's definitely not a requirement, but if you feel more comfortable that we change that question, we
Oh, I
can, we
think
could
we
even
can
change
change
it. What parish do you reside in? It does not affect who is a member of the group.
And look, changing it to that, which parish you reside in, they give you demographics
Yeah,
of what's going on. Because we're not, Livingston Parish isn't affected strictly by Livingston Parish. And
No,
we've seen with this
no.
watershed stuff.
I get that. My only
Yeah.
thing was trying to keep people from Arkansas and Colorado from posting on here and wasting
Yeah,
time.
but if they're out
well,
of
we're
line.
reviewing the post.
If they're out of line, we're not gonna
we-
approve
we
the post.
just
And we
have
can
to-
just block it.
Once someone starts to tax your patients as an administrator, the next thing you do is check out their profile page.
Right,
And you let's say they're in Colorado and they're just here just to cause trouble, you boot them just like Kyle.
You beat, great.
There's a parliament, now it's in parliamentary.
I've done a couple of
Facebook
them
page.
before.
I mean, I sit on it every night, so I review it.
Would you like to be one? Okay. Are you off the hook or you want to be a member?
I'll do it.
Whatever, I mean.
We're good. And if someone gets tired of doing it, or somebody really wants to do it, we can do that. This is just Facebook. It's not anything really major. Okay.
I think you'll find that we're subject to some new parish council rules for Facebook.
That was my question to Angie. Would you explain to him, Angie? Because I mean, did we pick a night to bring that before the council or not?
Well, the point is before we were actually subject to state rules on social media. Anytime that a municipality wants to establish rules, you can only pass tighter rules than the state or the federal has. You can't pass those rules. You can only tighten them. So we're already under their rules, but we are not paid, but we're a public entity, and as such, we're not told a certain amount.
Right. But I had heard at the last meeting that they were going to address certain things the council was, but Miss Angie told me that's a different matter than our Facebook. So why don't we take the question, what district you reside in off, and just do what parish you reside in, and then what locations do you have concern about taking? How about those two? Okay. Why don't we take a vote on that? Are we cool with the questions? Just those two.
Which one is next question?
Motion to make this our rules for Facebook.
And which are the 3 questions as they're
They're
written?
just two.
Just the two
Well,
together.
the whole thing, the mission statement, the group rules, the 2 questions,
Yes.
and the 4
And
administrators.
the 2 questions are, what parish you reside in, and what locations do you have concerns about the drainage?
I see.
We have a motion by Ms. Pat to accept the Facebook rules with questions, and a second by Mr. Howard. All that are for it, say aye. Any opposed? Any carries?
And if on your way home, something comes to you that you're not comfortable with, whatever, just email me, or Brian, or Ron. Somebody.
And we did state the name of where to find us. Facebook
And that's
page.
it. Our name is going to be what we are, the Livingston Parish Citizens Drainage Committee. That will be our name. I have a question for Miss Angie. It's apostrophe S or just S? S. Okay. And pictures. We need pictures. Send us pictures. And we'll ask for some of that on our thing if you have a picture or whatever. We'll do that too. And I think that'll be a good thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything from the audience on this topic? Anything from the council? Or committee? All right, so moving on to 2C, discussion and review of recommendation to council. Water flow study on all major waterways. I believe Mr. Brian. Wasn't you at the,
I was.
didn't you?
I asked them if they would do it, and to tell you the truth, there wasn't any discussion per se. They immediately proceeded to how are we gonna pay for this, and we'll get back with you when we figure it out. They accepted the proposal very readily.
Yeah,
I
they
was
all.
encouraged.
I watched it. I was very, very pleased because they were like, we really need it. Several of them spoke up saying that's way overdue. Yeah.
And I'm
That was
I'm
great.
kind of thinking out loud, I would think that there are some studies that's been done that someone should have access to.
All of the major highways should have the drainage plans for each bridge and culvert. So it's really a question of collating most of them. Some
Would
of
that be
them-
state
I don't have access to where it's all collected, to be honest with you, but, I'm sure they'll find themselves a consultant that knows, and, what they'll do is gather information and give us back.
I do know in the last month, we have gotten to where the state is working with us on our drainages and stuff now, where they just did their own thing and didn't care what was past their servitudes. Now they, due to some people who are hiring us, they've let them know that they do have some responsibility when it leaves their property. And so now, I mean, we got a ditch that's this high, and the new road ditch, the top of the culvert is 2 inches above the bottom of the ditch that's going into. So the engineer there didn't even, and the water lines and everything else are still within the culvert. So, but the state's not, somewhere they changed their elevations and nobody else got them in there.
I think
Just
the
say, but now-
watershed initiative is starting to lean on various agencies to start to work together. I know some of us are getting emails from the watershed initiative. They're trying hard to
Get everybody
to think in terms of water flow from top to bottom, regardless of how many municipalities it flows through. I think the state's been given that mandate.
I've been to a couple of those meetings with the Watershed Initiative. I don't know why, but it seems like that they have done a study, or that's part of their overall agenda, is to do a study of the water flow in each of the, there's districts and then other smaller, it breaks it down smaller and smaller. But it seems like in one of those meetings that I attended, that was part of this process, is to study the water flow. Say if you get a big rain up in along the Louisiana-Mississippi line, and if it's 10 inches, how does that affect Marpole?
I think more interesting, what I was interested in here was actually the flow at particular bridges and culverts.
Oh, okay.
Looking for choke points.
Yeah.
What they're looking at is the general number of cubic feet that are going to be going down in every waterway.
Yes.
But it has nothing to do with the overall velocity of that. So if you have a bridge or culvert that's too small, you'll create a pool there, like a beaver dam, until it finally has time to flow out.
Mm-hmm.
And the initiative isn't looking at that.
Yes, I did not gather that from what
I believe District One has some metering devices in place that they can, that District One is using.
I was at the meeting last night and they have water shed, how much water, how many inches of rain they've had in each location. So they've got gauges in place.
They can check the flow of the bottom or something as it's passing.
It tells the elevation at each road
Just
crossing.
the elevation.
It tells the elevation, so this one has it resin and this one is raised for 2 feet. They know they got a log across the creek, they gotta go get in there and go find it.
It shows the amount of rain in a certain area. Use the example last night, it storm rain heavy right here at Denton, right close to the Board 1 meeting that I attended, and it was canals or so going across it right there. Through the park. And that's one of the things that I mentioned when I was at the last meeting, that the amount of rain in each area and how it affects. What I've noticed, and I've been talking about people I work with, is they've noticed the Amen River quits flowing. And we've had heavy rains. So it depends on the watershed initiative, if they will do the studies, if that's the focus that they can go towards. Looking at how much rain, if you get 6 inches of rain in Ascension Parish, it jams up by your man shack, or floods the lower end of the basin. Where's the water that's going to appear tomorrow? That 4 or 6 inches of rain, where did it go? And that's what we've noticed the difference is. If you're going to have an outlet, you can't pull the water out of it. But I don't know how many times here in the last 6 months I've noticed the Amen River that Magnolia Bridge and Falls Boulevard is almost 0 feet. It's just sitting there. That means something very hard. The watershed down south of us is already building.
too, everybody wants the water to flow fast. If your water backs up and it's gone in 24 hours, the drainage is doing its job. Years ago, I came from a cattle family. We had 18,000 acres of cattle in a mud hole. And it'd take 2 days for that water to go down 50 years ago because I was a kid playing it. So now it's all subdivisions. Whole Brown Road and all that is living up. We had all that cattle. We drove through. And you had to ride a horse across some of the roads because you couldn't drive a car down. But as long as the water leaves in 24 to 48 hours, the drainage is still doing its job. The water's not, we're not going to get rid of all flow like some people are thinking. There's no way to stop water from backing up in areas that it's always been doing. So we got to keep that in mind for some of the people that moved into the area. I mean, like I said, I'm on another district, and people call all the time that just moved in. Well, we got yard. They didn't tell you that when you bought it, but it's been doing that since the house was built. So we got a lot of new people in the parish that don't have a clue what was wet before and after. If it was wet 30 years ago, it's going to be wet today, because there's no way. All we're doing is making it worse. Just something to keep in people's mind when they listen to people. But that's the hardest thing, is to remember the location of people talking about.
All right, so moving on to retention ponds. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Explained that you made that request of the council on July 8th, but Mr. Gary said, how it ended.
But I'll retouch on it. Like I said, when we made the proposal to get that information about the choke points of the bridges and culverts, they really didn't discuss it. They went straight to talking about whether or not they could pay for it and how they could pay for it. And the last thing that Mr. Calvert said was basically that we should expect a resolution in a couple of weeks. So they were exceptionally positive in the reception, and I think we'll get it.
They did have that big question about whether home rule charter said in regard to making some amendments to the budget, and they talked about $250,000 set aside. So they were going to have legal counsel to check into that and come back in 2 weeks, and they are hopeful that they would have a resolution for it for 1 year.
So
What you-
engineering to locate these places, or is that?
Well, what he was talking about earlier is most of the data probably already exists. It's just a question of somebody collecting it.
I know they have an Amen River model, Amen River Basin model. We already have that. And they're able to put 12 inches of rain up north, and they're able to model it. I mean, that's one of the advantages we have in Livingston Parish Road watershed. We have some of the modeling and stuff already done.
And we're the first one.
Yeah,
We're
right.
still on the road.
So, I mean, we're at an advantage as far as a watershed perspective, but like Mr. Clement, I mean, where is this information for us to see at?
Well, the point is, that since most of the information probably exists, it should not be a tremendously expensive study to get. I know Lauren's aware that Gravity District 2, we commissioned a study up there to do more Beaver Creek, because they're considering diversion canal. But that study's gonna cost $1.6 million, I believe.
And that's one creek.
Just one creek's $1.6 million.
Yeah, that's what I said.
But we can't do that parish-wide.
Walker's over 2 or 3 million already on their little drainage stuff.
But all we're asking about is the design flow and expected flow.
And look,
in
Beaver Creek,
bridges and culverts.
Beaver Creek covers a couple parishes as well, so I mean, that's.
Beaver Creek starts up close to the Mississippi line, not quite there. And it comes all the way down just below Magnolia Beach.
Well, would that be a moving target, if that's the right terminology? You can do a study, and then 6 months from now, that might not be what the situation is currently. If we're talking about trees that's fallen over, or a new development coming in and did not put in the correct drainage.
It's a moving target, but I'd be satisfied with open information over no information.
And look, I think they have a lot more information to get.
Okay, great.
We could generate new as necessary, but we at least review what we do have, and we'll find out.
probably have to resolve itself, either, but all information is current.
I know there are bridges and culverts that are above capacity. We know that already. They're graded out. We know we have some. And it's just getting washed under the bridge with the rest of the information. And if we get that information, we find bridges and culverts that are graded out, that we know that there's more water going there than they can handle. We can start making issue one at a time.
Does anyone in the audience have a comment on the water flow study or comments? No. All right, let's move on to retention ponds. I was in a meeting maybe 2 weeks ago with District 1 as part of the Home Builders Association of Baton Rouge. And we had Mr. Lee Foster, he's with the ESLD, he was there with us. And we were talking about these ponds, and Lee brought up the point that, you know, so the parish is wanting the HOA to take responsibility of them, but Lee said in other municipalities, pretty much everywhere but Livingston Parish, they have a servitude line that runs through the detention ponds, and that gives access to the parish to be able to get there in a boat and unstop the downflow line, or gives them access for it not to be private property. You know, if there's a maintenance issue, they're able to take care of it. And he says that most of our neighborhoods, our plots don't have that on it. And most of District 1 pretty much agreed that that would be something feasible to give them access.
We just have no rights. I mean, we argue that every week. We don't have any rights to hold it.
But look, I mean, if you're having a new subdivision and that's part of the requirement from the parish. Yes, sir. Speak your name.
I live in Walker.
You gotta
Okay,
state your
you the man I want. You're right there.
you gotta state your name and everything first.
Name and
Oh, Bill White. How you doing, sir? I live in Walker, right there off Pendarvis, in the old neighborhood, Rebecca Drive. I live in the corner lot. There's an old pond back there. Now, they can call it a retention pond, or they can say it's a personal pond. But I've watched that pond come up, go down, come up, and go down with it every big rain. Now, my house borders the ditch after the big canal on Pendarvis. There's a smaller ditch that runs toward the interstate. This year, I've had water stay on my property multiple times from the ditch, not getting past the interstate and going down. And when you're talking about retention ponds, this pond is above its silt level, I guarantee you. Because I can look out there and I can see silt in the middle of the pond about 2 foot under the lily pads and the duckweed and all that. It has not been maintained since I've been there in 2015. Like I said, I bought an old house, fell in love with the spot, flooded in 2016. Every time it rains hard, like it's been doing this year, then dogs got the signs. They go flip the signs, high water, slow down. The water does not get past the big ditch, the bridge over it. I don't know if it's got a name or not. You might know. The water crosses Ashley, crosses Pendarvis, stays there until it finally trickles down. So we're talking about putting retention ponds. Who is a retention pond expert? I'm not. I have common sense. You've got to dig a retention pond for the size of the area. You're covering up. But then, developer walks away, subdivision there, 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years later, it's full. Water goes downhill. Got to. 4 person down the road, he's flooding now. So when they build these subdivisions, do they come to y'all and say, we're gonna put in a 2 acre, whatever, retention pond? Do they come to y'all?
No.
Not to us, they
Not
go
us.
to the.
They go to planning and zoning, so
Yeah.
that person hires an engineer.
Yeah, that's why I believe they ought to come to y'all. Y'all take care of the drainage. Y'all need to know.
We're a committee for the parish council. We have no authority to do anything.
I know, I understand that. But I'm just
Put
saying,
him on the
it gotta
list.
start somewhere.
Yeah.
But you're
And
right.
I'm about-
You're right.
You're right.
We should
You're right.
be your advocate.
You should have the information.
We should get it.
That's
We
right.
don't ask, we should
That,
get it.
you are the first person that should come to you. Say, okay, we want to build a subdivision here. Oh, by the way, 30 years, you might take care of this
But
pond.
that's what I was talking about, having that servitude through the middle of it. It would, so the problem we have right now as a parish, the developer builds a neighborhood, the HOA is responsible for
Mhm.
that pond, okay? So, just say the HOA disbands, and there is no HOA, who's responsible for the pond? That's the question, okay?
I'm looking at one.
Okay, so, we spoke with District One, so making it a servitude through the middle of it would give the parish access to be able to maintain it. 50 years down the road, or ever how long,
Yeah.
it would be able to be maintained. Kind of the way it's structured now, you're trespassing if it's a problem.
There's your problem. And then, does the parish really want, how many retention ponds are there that the parish would have to pick up? And how much would it cost to clean a pond out?
After
Haul the
developers
flood
sell
out,
this
how
property.
much?
So right now, they have it set up to where it's private property right now. So the HOA is
So
actually.
who pays
own-
taxes on it? I guess is what I'm saying. The developer, when he develops, he, by law, for his requirements, he has to build his pond.
So it goes through
He sells all
planning,
the
it goes
lots.
through planning and zoning, okay? So they hope they do an 18-month holdback, just like for the streets. All right, then they come in, they inspect streets and culverts or whatever they inspect for the neighborhood to release their bond back to the contractor or developer. And then the developer is out of it. The pond would be HOA is the way it's set up now. Okay, but if a neighborhood doesn't have an HOA, the person backing up to it would be responsible. So District One is working with an engineering company, trying to propose putting servitude through it to give right of way.
So, I'm gonna be
if-
the devil's advocate, excuse me, but the person backing up to it. So when I bought this lot to build my house on, the pond is behind me.
Yeah,
They come and give me my square. I didn't buy that pond.
correct.
All right, now the developer's done, that pond's not mine. I have my,
Correct, but
But what we do.
but part of the
is-
HOA,
Yeah, but 10 years from now, that pond is in your yard because nobody's maintaining it. And all that silt is in the
it
bottom.
doesn't matter if it's in my yard. Shame on me for letting it erode, but that's still not my problem.
Until it gets to your property line, until it erodes your property line, you can't do anything. What we're dealing with, I deal with it weekly,
But who's responsible for
the HOA that don't exist
it?
anymore,
That-
90%
all
of
right,
it.
they don't exist anymore.
well, they do exist, they do. Because the brand new neighborhood, you have an HOA, what typically happens with an HOA, they want $300 a year. And there's 200 houses, nobody sees them doing anything with the money. Well, we don't want an HOA anymore, let's just ban it. And so we don't have to pay $300 a year. That's typically what happens.
But this
But
plot
then
of
you have,
land that this
correct,
pond is on,
you have a problem.
who's paying the tax? Where's the tax notice go to?
If I may, I've been talking with a couple of councilmen about this issue. And I proposed that we could add an impact fee on neighborhood construction. And that impact fee would go to the gravity drainage boards. And the gravity drainage boards would ultimately be responsible for it. Have the opportunity to be
But
responsible for it.
I
if it falls
disagree,
apart.
I disagree with that, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because the developer, as part of his bond, if the water from the street is going into a curb and gutter, the parish should take it over regardless. It's part of the drainage for that neighborhood. They're taking the roads and the curb and gutters Why wouldn't they take the pipe going into the retention pond?
We're talking about the floor retention or detention pond, whichever it is. Who's responsible for that when it starts growing trees? If the HOA falls apart, the trees grow, and now it starts snapping.
But it shouldn't be the
All kinds
HOA.
of trash, and it just slowly builds up.
But it shouldn't be the HOA responsibility anyway. It should be DPW to keep that water flowing. That's a part of drainage.
Well, what DPW does is the ditches.
Well, I'm saying it should be a drainage district. It shouldn't be a homeowner responsibility.
We don't
There's a
mind.
gap here right now, you
Yeah,
see.
there's
Department of
32.
Public Works has
Correct.
ditches.
Correct.
We don't have
Drainage
certain-
Board has natural waterways. These are not natural, and they're not ditches either.
But
So
they,
there's a gap, and we haven't addressed it yet.
correct, but there's usually an outflow line that goes into a ditch.
And they're not designed to be a pond. They're, I mean,
Well, the
they
top-
catch water and ultimately it's gone.
The retention is only from the invert of the outflow and culvert to the top of the pond. That is your retention.
And look, it's
Everything from the,
engineered.
everything from the invert
Engineers put-
down is regular water. That's pond water.
Now, detention ponds are dry bottom.
Now, look,
Generally,
Lee Foster said in one of his developments, rain come around, he went and looked, the ditch water was higher than his pond. So, and he was telling District 1 this, and he says, you know, probably shouldn't have done it, but I did. He put in another pipe with a backflow flap that would let the ditch water go into his pond. So it equalized the ditch, which lowered the water. It went out the other end at a slower rate. And like you said, this helped our whole community because it took the ditch water, made it lower, put it in my pond that wasn't getting any of that water, and let it go flow out the other way. And look, that's a good idea. I mean, like we said earlier, we need some common sense approaches to some of this stuff, and we don't do that as much.
But we do have a gap right now, responsibility for those areas.
Correct. There is a problem with that. And look, it's being talked about and acknowledged. So I look, and I don't know the timeline, but I look here in the near future for something to be resolved on these ponds. And look, I see both sides of it. I mean, just like in a neighborhood, you have certain people that, if they have an HOA, they get fines every month for not pulling their weeds, you know, flower weeds. So do we really want people taking care of something that could cost them on the flood? Or would you want?
But to answer you, Mr. White.
Well, I have one more question.
We can look at it. I'll drive, I'm retired, I've got plenty of time, I'll drive by.
I blew both my knees out. I've been on disability for a year.
I'll drive by, look at it, take a picture.
I'm not really worried about that pond. All I'm worried about is the parish is gonna get stuck with a bunch of retention ponds being built. People gonna walk away from their responsibilities. They build these lots up 2, 3 feet sometimes. I seen one house, I know it's 3 foot higher than mine. They're putting a burden on the older homes, the pre-83 flood homes. 'Cause I was around in 83, I'm an old guy. I seen the water. I seen the sea water in 2016. I knew a man on Blackwater Road, Mr. Shaman. His grandfather and my grandfather fought in World War II together. This is how long that family goes back. In 83, on Blackwater Road, he didn't have water. Now, I know I'm talking about East Baptist Parish, but go with me a minute. 2016, they overdeveloped around him. His house was built in the 40s, his grandfather's house, his dad's house. Mr. Carl built his house in the 60s. Guess what happened to both of them houses? And they were built off the ground. They had water up to almost, I think they had 4 foot of water. And they was 2 foot off the ground, if I remember right. So I'm not worried about what's going to happen to me. I'm worried about what's going to happen to the people down from me. I mean, heck, my time's limited.
Man, look, that's what
There's a
we're,
bunch of people
that's
who
what
get
we're
flooded
here.
if they don't start.
That's what we're here trying to, you know, we've come together as a community committee, and we're trying to find solutions to exactly what you're talking about. And we're trying to work through some of these problems.
When's the next parish meeting, planning meeting? You'll see me every week. I got nothing to do. I'm hot to come friends with y'all. Y'all come down to my house and drink coffee. I'm real friendly. Matter of fact, you fam, I lost my favorite restaurant because of flooding. Val's. I miss it. That's what I'm talking about, heritage. That place was there for, that lady took my orders for years. She wasn't a waiter, she was a mama. You walked into a house when you went to Val's. I don't know if y'all ever went there. I love that place. But that's all I'm going to say is we got to protect the older structures from flooding. And this is going to happen.
And look, I believe planning and zoning, I believe every new neighborhood that comes through, there are certain requirements that have to be met. And I feel confident that planning and zoning make sure those requirements are met.
Well, when's the next meeting? I'll be there.
That's a Miss Angie
The
question.
planning commission meets the first Wednesday of every month over at the Parish Presence for the health unit building, one of those rooms, the
Okay.
first Wednesday of every month.
I'll start showing up.
Of course, the council meets the second and Thursday of every month. You can call our office and I can get your email and your distribution list for us, and you can call planning and get on their distribution list.
Okay.
as well.
No problem.
The ordinance committee meets also, they're on our list of getting their addresses.
With the neighborhood development, every time a neighborhood is proposed, they have to put a sign up saying there's development proposed. And part of the council's approval of that, there has to be a public comment section. So they can't just say, here, we got this approved, we got this neighborhood that we're gonna put up, bang, bang, bang. No, it doesn't happen that fast.
I
They have to
understand that.
publish it, there's gonna be a public hearing, they have to have the public hearing. Once that's closed, then they can go ahead and approve it. But
Yeah,
you
we
don't
just
know
had
how
one
to
in,
speak.
Walker for,
Well, there
Judy.
was one here a few nights ago where they approved a couple.
Was it
of
Walker,
neighborhoods.
was it here, held here for Judy?
Yeah, right here.
Okay. Well, that's what I was
Mr.
talking about.
Sand got down and he explained everything in the neighborhoods that were being approved. They had public comments and then they approved. But public comments have to be heard by all.
I thank y'all for y'all's time, and y'all have a good night. I'm going to drink this coffee.
Thanks.
Yes, sir, Mr. Lloyd, thank you. Anyone else have anything?
My name's Gerald, Matt Morris, 18996 So my question to you guys would be, you take that map in front of you and look, we asking the parish to take over all the retention ponds, just like this man was speaking about. I'm not full against on that. We can't even do laterals in our parish for DPW. Down where I represent, I sat on the council on the south side of the interstate. We can't even get the laterals now. All right? I just think I need a lot of convincing for myself to let that go through for the parish to take them over. Whenever we can't even do the people that's lived here, my family's been here for 150 years or more. So we need to look at this hard for the whole parish, just not subdivisions, but the retention ponds.
But the,
Alright.
the where you could get the money from the subdivisions is from the developer. He's the one that's having to pay for it. You make him pay for it. And, now, and look, the older sections, look, I understand exactly what you're saying, it's unfunded. But in the new development, to be able to sell this lot, Mr. Developer, it's gonna cost you X. And look, they do it for the sewer, the water, and all of that. I mean, they put a pretty high penny on a developer develop a neighborhood. And-
What they're doing here is developing the retention ponds, but we're not looking downstream, upstream, we only looking so far. I just don't understand how we're getting away with some of this stuff.
And look,
that we're
so
doing
when
with
this
the plan.
neighborhood's developed, let's just say it was a 100-acre tract originally. And let's just say they put 60 houses, and I'm just using numbers, I don't know how many they would get. So unless $2,000 a house in property taxes. I mean, that's 60 times 2,000, that's what they're getting each year. Now, how they delegate it, I don't know the breakdowns of that. But some of it should be for the the retention pond, detention pond, whatever's on site, it should be for the maintenance and future upkeep of it. And the tax assessor, sheriff, or whoever's collecting the taxes, they should have a fund for it.
Just like he's saying, me and him agree on that 100%. We just went from a field of 100 acres that was paying y'all $250. And you got 60 houses paying $2,000. So you went from $200 to $120,000 a year. That's going just to taxes. It's out here to the.
Where's that money being
Where's that
spent
money
is my
going?
question.
That man developed the road, that man developed the sewer, that man developed everything in it. There's money for drainage. 70s, we had the police jury, and they dug every ditch in the parish in the 70s.
That's a fact.
There's too much free stuff going places for people that don't do nothing for this parish. You don't know what I think of taxes. So one thing I do agree with Shane Mack on is too much money going to places that don't need money. We need to reallocate some of that money that's coming out of what's already paid. So whenever we did our own drainage districts to improve in the, I mean, this map right here is a good map of what's been cleaned. These red lines was clean. Walker and Denham don't have a red line in it. Where's 80% of your taxes for this parish come from? And there ain't a red line through Walker and Denham. So if you want to know about misuse of tax funds, that's a prime example of it.
Well, this here was not the tax, this was a federal grants that you're looking at right here.
Where's federal grants come from?
Right.
Where's federal grants come from? Tax dollars.
What tax dollars, you know, from everybody.
It wasn't parish tax dollars, it was
Yeah,
federal.
but it's still tax.
But my point is here,
Yeah.
you know, until we
I
get the
agree with you.
laterals done, and where you live, I live, it does us no good to take over something we can't maintain now.
But and look, there has to be some kind of mechanism put in place. Just take the 60 lot example. From that money that's being generated, once again, common sense. Shouldn't some of that, if it's generating that much more tax income, shouldn't a portion of it be allocated for maintenance of that pond? That's, to me,
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
But you
Yes, sir.
gave me more information than what I had, I promise you, not sit on the council, so that's more.
Part of our problem is that those areas you're talking about have repeatedly denied taxes
Oh, that's
to
a fact.
establish
We lost a
drainage
ballpark,
districts.
we lost a ballpark because of people.
For a couple of
That's right.
hundred votes too, on the last one down there,
That's
for
right.
this area. My suggestion is that we need to find an alternative way to fund it.
I think they have something kind of.
But every bit of your water and your water comes that way,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Well, my
Doing a
water
great job
personally-
cleaning out, but I understand where you're
My
coming
water
from.
makes it directly to the AME right there south of Magnolia Beach, but yes, I agree with you. Everything heads to Marlboro, period. Every drop of water hits the ground in Livingston Parish, it's Marlboro. And if you live north, it passes one of your neighbors on the way down. And I agree with you that we need to get those unfunded districts funded. So, a very big.
And look, Mr.
Big
Moore,
amount.
you may know, I don't know the number, but how many new neighborhoods were built last year? I mean, I don't know the number. So,
A bunch.
1,500
this year
houses,
here, we have not approved any in District 6.
2,000
That's pretty
houses? I mean,
much.
I'm just kind of just figuring numbers. I mean, I don't really know. I mean, so in a year's time, I would think 1,500 houses, 2,000 houses. And let's just say each one is $2,000 of tax revenue generated, which is depending on the price, but that's close. I mean, it might be 1,500 on one, 2,500 on the other. But 2,000 a house is pretty close. Where's all that money go?
I'm gonna sit down because I do not know that answer. All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
So to address what you was mentioning earlier about when you were discussing about the servitude running through the middle of the retention.
Yes, sir.
Would that give the gravity drainage boards jurisdiction to be able to go in there,
Yes.
clean them and keep them flowing?
Yeah.
That allows us in there. Right now, we can't, we have to stop because we have no service.
I asked that question for clarification.
Yes.
So right now,
My next one statement would be, then builder and developer should be more concerned about having that set aside for the long term instead of utilizing every square inch to build a house on a tiny lot.
The builder developer, that wouldn't affect him one bit, because,
You know, what I'm saying is, so he needs to be, because they're not setting aside that servitude that they're asking for.
no, so planning does that. Planning tells them the drainage they have to have. So they, just say it's a curb and gutter neighborhood, and they
That's
have,
where the ordinances need to be enforced and strict.
and look, they're working pretty
Yeah,
tight on that.
They have a new ordinance.
So,
They're working on it.
like the servitude for drainage pipes, it was at the last meeting or the meeting before the council, they've increased the width depending on how big the pipe is, to give them enough room. So, that same pipe, follow it into the pond, and then follow it to the outflow line, that doesn't affect the developer one way or the other. He's not gaining or losing anything. It's just giving a right of way from the entry pipe to the exit pipe, which, look, if I was a developer developing something, I would be fine, I'm not giving up anything. I'm not getting anything, but I'm not giving up anything.
I guess what I've seen, and the reason I stated it the way I did is because I've seen several of the, they come up before the board on the gravity one. Those retention ponds, they have no access to.
Correct.
So that's why I asked that clarification.
Now,
look,
That we need.
there
that
was a
in
time
there.
that when a developer would build a neighborhood, well, this is a lake, this is a lake lot.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so you own to the lake,
Steady.
you own to the water. Well, you don't have access. Problem.
I
But,
agree with what you're saying, that's the way
But
the
there-
drainage boards are going.
but the way the parish planning, I believe, is doing it now, and look, it may have more than one input pipe, I don't know the size of the neighborhood's going to determine that.
That could be,
So that would be their servitude to get in and out. If they have to pack a bateau in and go get a stump out of an outlet line, they could put it back, they could drag it down to 15 foot. And I think 15 is the minimum servitude now. I think that's the minimum. I think it only gets
raise
bigger.
that too.
Yeah, and it could be bigger to depending on the pipe.
I believe they asked for an extra 5 feet right now.
Yeah, so you could get, so if you're 20 foot wide, you could get something pretty big there. And
So how's that gonna affect if they, that becomes part of regulations, servitude, any new development, how will HOA, will they just say, hey, parish needs to take care of it, you got your servitude?
I personally think that the parish should take care of it anyway because of the tax revenue they're generating from. I mean,
I agree. I mean,
if the road gets a hole in it, is the HOA gonna fix the hole? No, they're gonna call the parish. What's different from the curb on the road, the curb being the gutter, the curb and gutter? That gutter was hey, we accept this, we've taken it over after 18 months. That pipe in that gutter, what's different from there to the pond than it is in the street? I mean, to me, it's no difference.
Servitude, right away.
Correct.
There's a question now, we ain't gonna be paying taxes on some of the ponds, even in the subdivisions, because HOAs that dissolved
Yeah.
are not paying the taxes on the unincorporated lots.
Somebody owns it.
The HOA owned it, but if they dissolved and they haven't paid it in so many years.
All right, so look, we need to move on. We got a speaker here. Yes, sir. Come up to the microphone, please, sir.
Identify yourself, sir, please.
Okay. Retention pond.
Hey,
You gotta say
state your
name
name and address,
Oh,
please, sir.
Steve Forbass, Springfield. You said, okay, the depth of retention pond is from the top of the culvert to the bottom of the drain out, right?
Invert of the drain out.
Where's
The
drain?
calculation is from the bottom of the invert to the top of the ledge or envelope.
Okay, so it doesn't make any difference how many acres is in that retention pond, you only got that volume. Whether it's 30 inches, 40 inches,
They could be
whatever.
10 foot deep once they below natural ground. They could be 20 foot deep. That don't make a difference. It's from the bottom of the invert to the top
I
of the
got
levee.
that. Why do they dig them so deep then, son?
Fish.
No.
Why would they?
Yeah.
To use the dirt, to use the
Use
dirt,
Use the dirt.
to use the dirt to build up.
Fish.
Build it.
Okay, but what you're doing
Okay.
is creating problems for the people who live there, because then you got a place for mosquitoes to breed from now on. And if it was gonna be used as a retention pond for what it was actually designed for, that means when you got excessive rainwater, that pond is supposed to catch that rainwater so that when it's drains out, as y'all said, it has to be a natural drain, no pumping, okay,
It only allows it to go out at a certain rate.
at a certain rate.
Your outlet pipe is a certain diameter that only allows so much volume out at a certain rate.
I can
But-
understand that.
The reason you go deep is because your elevation of your pond. Okay, ordinance says you gotta build a house and lives in parish 2 feet above base flood.
I got you.
Only thing you're mediating is from natural ground to flood elevation. The other 2 feet of dirt's gotta come from somewhere.
Okay. So
That's
they
why the
taking that
pond's
2
deeper.
feet of dirt, piling it,
So that's why the dirt pond's deeper.
so that water that's there is going on somebody else's place, on that 2 foot. It gotta be, son, it can't stay there anymore, because that's above base elevation.
Right.
So it's going on somebody else's
It's
property.
going to that retention pond and then it's going out at the same rate of speed that it should have flowed out naturally. I suppose.
Supposed to.
I'm not an engineer, but that's the way they calculate it. And this is he works for an engineer that works for us, so I think I explained that right.
Right.
Because he's way more knowledgeable than I am.
Okay, there's no more questions. Let's move on to number 3. New business, discussion of the parish-wide GIS mapping. And, we have Ms. Lauren here.
Two whites. Two whites today.
Good afternoon. My name is Lauren White. I am here as a constituent. Just want to make that very clear. You have 2 handouts in front of you to talk about the geographic information systems. It's just mapping, roads, houses. We use it for drainage in Gravity 2. Do y'all have this system in Gravity 5? And I know Gravity 1 uses it as well. If you look at the little, the system is currently down right now, so I had it on the iPad waiting for y'all to show it to you guys. But if you just look, I just printed out the first page. This is a community accessible mapping system that we use. And then if you flip it over, you can see kind of not very well, but there are blue lines, and that is the different canals and main streams that we have in District 2. So if you just want to look at it. Another example of the GIS mapping system is the larger paper that we have in front of you with the red streams. How they get this information and how we get it in Gravity 2 is there's an app on your cell phone. So if our guys are going out to clean out a canal, a ditch, a lateral, they just push a button. They can walk the full length of the canal, push the button again when they're done, and then at the end of the day, they can send that to our engineer, and they input the name, the work done, things like that. So it's all of the data ends up in map form. So I talked to a couple councilmen about this, and at the last meeting, we discussed how there was a lack of data throughout the parish. I mean, a lot of our the 3 gravity drainage districts that are currently funded, I think they have a lot of good stuff for themselves, but parish-wide, we don't really have anything. And I actually got a lot of calls about this when the agenda went out. So I just wanted to bring that up to you guys, let y'all start thinking about it. It's a really good resource. It would be a good resource for the parish. We're talking about it tomorrow at the Gravity 8 meeting. They're currently unfunded, but mechanisms like this that make their job easier are something that they're definitely going to look into. And if you guys have any questions, I know that was a really brief explanation, but I got to get out of here, so y'all have any questions.
I'm assuming as they're doing work, they can take pictures, and you upload pictures of what they've done.
I don't know about pictures, but I know that the GIS systems, they have like layers and things that you can analyze. So I'm not sure about pictures, but I know we take records at Gravity too, but I don't know if it's actually uploadable in this system.
We utilize a Esri at the town of Albany for our utilities, and it's since my administration, and it is initially a little expensive, but the time, the information that you get, and just like Lauren said, you can layer. You can, once you get your basic information, and you can continue to layer over, and that would be like we can actually, you know, if we would have something in Gravity District 8, which is where Albany is, we could probably import that into our utility system to see where we have drainage issues. It's just an unbelievable system, and
It's a great resource, one
Yes,
that I
it is.
can't
It
believe
is a great
DPW
resource.
doesn't utilize at the moment. But parish-wide, and this is what I had talked about with a couple of the councilmen, now that we have gravity drainage districts and we are working on the funding for 8, which is a lot where a lot of the larger problems are, it'll just be really good. It would be really good to work with Walker, Denham, Albany, Springfield, French Settlement, all these other places. So that's why I just wanted to put in your mind that maybe that's a recommendation that you guys can make to the council. I think it would be a favorable recommendation with them as well to have a parish-wide system that everyone could use, that everyone can integrate to. Like if 1 and 2 are using one system, then the parish probably could use the same system and cut down on the cost. You know, everyone wants to save tax dollars and stuff like that. So that was just my
Look, this
pitch.
kind of ties into what Mr. Clemens was asking for, some of the study stuff, I would think.
I'd like to ask you, I've been at Gravity 2 meetings when they were there talking. This is actually Louisiana's largest system. It's a state supplied system, from my understanding.
That's my understanding too, but I don't want to speak on that because I don't know. I don't know.
Do you know if Gravity 2 is paying any license fees to use?
I believe there is a startup cost. I don't think that it was that expensive. And then for the app on our phones, I think we are going to pay like a $75 monthly subscription. But I think that's for the app, and we can put it on as many phones. It's one login, you know. So it's fairly inexpensive for the data that you get and the information that you can pull from it. So I'll just have to ask about that.
I think that would be a good item for us to present to the parish council.
So currently,
to expand this
District 2
parish
is the
wide.
only one using it?
District 1 has something.
One has.
It's a different program.
District 1 has something.
One has
They
a
take pictures.
higher level.
Yeah, I don't.
District 1, I was there.
we can take pictures and download it too. So if we revisit that, we can see what the issue was previously.
Right.
The worker that goes out.
District 1, like they had where in between 2 houses was a ditch in the control, they took a before picture and did all the work. And they took an after picture. They had it with a tag. You went to the map, click that tag, it would pull up where that culvert was at and show this is what it was at this date, this is what it is at this date.
This is the history.
I believe this is actually a state system that Gravity 2 pays fees for their use of.
So unless they're really, really similar, probably really be better off choosing one of the systems.
I didn't
over
hear
the
your
other.
question.
He asked if our engineers do this, and I was just telling him that the engineers do put in the pump, like the points when you send it to them. So the parish currently doesn't have this system. Isn't that what you were asking? I mean,
All our permits they have to go out and get it on for the permitting. So, I mean, they have a bunch of them because of the drainage program. Y'all know.
yeah, that's why in District 2, like I said, I kind of fought for our guys, or at least the foreman of all of our crews, to have this so that every day something is getting banked, something is getting mapped. I missed their last meeting, but I think that we did end up getting some more cell phones so that this can take off. Because, and I want to reiterate that the great thing about this program is it's completely open to the public. So if you are worried, or if you're talking to another constituent or a friend and they want to know something, then it's just such a quick resource. And Gravity One, I was on their website today, and their mapping system, it does seem a little more complex. They have a little more information. They also have a lot more money than us in District 2. So I guess it would just be, I think that my biggest thing, just a personal quick note, is that if we don't, or if we're not all on the same page in this parish, we're never gonna take step forwards together.
And look, my initial thought is we all need to be using the same system.
And mine too.
We're
but-
trying,
Are they
we're trying to get our supervisors together and working on the same program so our information crosses over. I mean, right now, 1 in 5 is working on a program, and the state, we're all working on 3 different systems.
Yeah, so I mean.
And
They're
so
not
when they butt
compatible.
together, when we get together, it's not, nothing's meeting.
Goes back to my thought, we need to have somebody up here
Well, that's why we're finally getting to that.
oversees everything before any.
I think that the most vital role that you guys play as a committee is getting everyone on the same track. It is getting everyone to identify their things. I mean, I've been working for the parish council for almost 5 years now, and it is just a personal opinion, but it's frustrating when you want to work with other people and you just can't get the information. And that's not a jab at anyone, but it just, there's so many deficiencies and so many disconnects that really the first step is to get everyone on the same page. And I just think that this is a great resource to kind of.
Well, that's what the whole watershed initiative is about, is to cross all the lines and talk about it together. And right now, the parish is attempting to have Livingston set aside and watershed 7A. And that would put us, it would be a good idea if we made a motion to have the parish look at the 3 systems in use and decide which one we want to go with, and let's standardize.
So do I have a motion?
And a motion that we request the parish to do that, look at the 3 systems in use, decide which one is the preferable use system. And if they would go with that, make it standard.
You got that?
Second that.
Second by Mr. Mayor. Take a vote. All that would agree with this? Any nays? So motion carries.
Thank you for your time, and y'all's service as constituents does not go unnoticed. I know it's a thing we should go
Thank
on.
you, Mr. Mayor. All right, so moving on to other business was number 4. So we had a constituent send in an email, and Mr. Bronson Bridges is his name. It doesn't have his address, I don't believe.
He's just south of I-12 between Jubilee and Pete's Highway.
And look, I'm just gonna read this the way it is, and we're gonna kind of go from there. Says Miss Angie Cornett, I'm unable to come to the 6 p.m. July 14th meeting, but I wanted to pass this on. This was the land between my house on Meadowview, which is in the back of Forest Ridge and Buddy Ellis. It was completely flooded a few months ago when we got all of the rain. If DSLD is going to raise this land several feet to build, then this water has to go somewhere. I got 18 inches of water in my house in 2016. This land behind me was supposed to be protected wetlands, but DSLD apparently illegally cleared the land without a permit and had to apply for an after-the-fact permit. Thanks, Bronson Bridges. And then he has a photograph attached of, it looks like a pond or something.
It's not, that's what it looks like there, right?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I did go over him our chapter 125 subdivision regulations in section 125.13 regarding wetlands and Corps of Engineers, taking it down to the Corps of Engineers, that if he had any particular questions, he may want to just speak to them.
So planning was notified of his
Yes.
email, and he was also notified of the chain that he could get in touch with the Corps of Engineer and our planning and zoning. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Since he said saying he was unable to make the meeting and wanted to pass it on, we just wanted to get it in the record.
No, I'm glad he did.
It seems like a compliance issue to me, actually. If
It
the work was
does.
done without a permit, that's.
Well, I just read the email. I don't know
compliance
anything other than what I just read.
I think DSLD would rather ask for forgiveness than permission.
Who is
Or-
DSLD?
That is the
Gentleman
developer.
Springs.
Ain't nothing to do with
It's
this.
No,
a
it's
development,
Sullivan.
development firm.
Yes,
And look-
and, I mean, there's one by us where they hauled in tons and tons of dirt, and now they're draining it all into the creek, which runs between our subdivision and Whisper Pond.
They're Lewis and Parish.
Oh, they're all
Company.
All
over.
over
They're in
the South.
They're all
Tantra,
over.
St. Tammany, they're
Texas,
everywhere.
they're out of
Texas.
Texas.
But look,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say
They're a
this.
Texas
I-
corporation, aren't they?
No, they're out of,
They're out
Oh,
of
really?
you're
Louisiana.
thinking of Deal Horse.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So I'm gonna say this.
Separate company. but they're all over
DSLD, I know some of
Louisiana.
the principals personally.
I did too.
I don't believe that they're gonna intentionally do anything to harm the community. And if they're putting water in a creek or a canal or wherever, I think they're putting it where the parish planning and zoning, and whichever parish they're in, told them that it had to go. I don't think they just come up with an arbitrary place to place it.
I think they just want to build a lot of houses.
They're business. That's a-
Yes,
yeah.
they are a business, and I understand.
But
that.
they have to follow the rules.
Till the ordinances change, they're gonna,
Right.
they're doing them
They're
based
gonna
on,
do it.
like
They
you
require
said,
to
they're
have
not doing
permit
anything the
before
ordinance
they
hasn't let
do
them
all
do.
Right.
land clearing.
I don't know that you have to have a permit to clear land.
Just
I
got-
cleared land and I received a
If it's
permit.
designated wetland, you.
But yeah, and I don't know the,
There's fine lines on that too. If you just, if you're shearing the stumps off with a shear blade, wetlands can't do you nothing. If you put a trackhoe in there and dig the stumps, then you violate. There's all kind of rules.
If you leave a tire track on wetlands, you violate it. You cut a tree, but you can't leave a tire track on
You
it.
fence it,
but
put
you can
cows
put
on it, do what you
a
want.
rubber track machine in there, that's not a tire track.
But,
It's all being able to manipulate.
yeah, but this brings up good good concern about developments. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
it's a
can,
great picture.
I mean, I have a dirt business section of my business. You go to these big communities like DSLD and, just using every name, the big communities are raising elevations like this. They're mandated to stay 15 feet back, and it does this. There's nothing to drain the water from their elevation drop to their property line. So that's something ordinance might want to stress.
And look, I'm looking at these cars on the road,
Yeah, they in water too.
so I mean, and look, we don't know how much rain was in the time frame. And there's a bunch of stuff we don't know.
Well, Buddy Ellis Road is where our cows were when I was born. And we rode horses down the road because we couldn't drive down
So
the
that
road
water,
in the 60s.
so that's
and
Buddy
70s.
Ellis somewhere is what they're telling me.
Yeah.
I mean, so that water.
And that's right before the bridge, so which
Is
where
that,
the
is that
state
typical
property
water after rain for that place?
It was
Yeah.
before they ever developed, yes.
Yes, sir.
John Evelyn, I live in a Killian. I just really have one question. I know all the tributaries and all the work and everything y'all have to deal with, but my main question is, we get all this water heading south. Is there a grand plan to get it out the river, keep it going? Or, because as of now, everything stacks up on the bottom end, everybody knows it. But is there some kind of grand plan there on the bottom?
You monitor Garrett Graves' page on Facebook. It was 3 weeks ago, I believe, that he got money passed for Pontchartrain. Everything that comes through Moore Park goes to Pontchartrain. They're worried about fresh water getting to Pontchartrain. And if the Pontchartrain initiative is actually done, then they're going to accept more water from Moore Park. But we still don't have a canal that's cut from the mouth of the Indian River all the way across the Moore Pass.
Right.
That's being discussed, but it's happening at the federal level. Right now, the Army Corps of Engineers has put a moratorium on dredging in Moore Park since 1983, I believe.
Right. Like on the show.
It used to be 10 foot, now it's 2 foot.
Correct.
They say 18 inches at the mouth of the Indian, except for a private canal.
Exactly.
That channel that everybody's using is actually
Exactly. I'm well aware of all that area down there and what's going on, but,
I'm just
so I
letting you
would
know
say,
I'm
is
aware of the
anything on the
situation.
books that was actually gonna be done, you know?
Right now, we're working on Garrett Graves because he sits on the committee that sets up the funding for the Army Corps of Engineers. Which the Corps of Engineers is a collection of many federal agencies, it's not just
Yeah,
one agency.
I understand that.
And they pretty well just write their own rules.
Yes.
But that's our biggest problem, I agree with you. Everything has to get to Marquardt, and that's a dam. It's a
So,
big, silted in dam.
other than waiting on the Pontchartrain Commission, there's no
There's no other plan.
avenue to get that taken care
Right
of.
now, there's no other plan. The watershed initiative has been working on it. But, you know, our
And there's
hopes
no
right now-
way to increase pressure there other than our representatives and such.
Representative that lives in Paris is Steve Gessner. From top of the
And look, I think a lot of it is wording. You can't use the word dredge
I understand that
with the
too.
Corps. You have to say we're reclaiming our banks or whatever the verbiage is for it. And I believe Mr. Kistler is working on some of that. But as his progress on it, I don't personally know.
Well, we was talking common sense earlier.
Yes, sir.
You know, and I know all the work in the tributaries, and I see all the work's been done, and my parish people are trying to help in our area some, but without an outlet,
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a moot point.
I agree with you totally, sir.
So if y'all could put some of that literature in your
That was,
some kind of directive there, again,
just
to
give
the
you a
general
heads up,
public.
all that was in the works before we ever were
Oh.
organized.
I understand.
I mean,
that's been
That's been in the works before we were organized, so, but it's,
Yeah, and
you
it's,
come to a
and the
few
problem
meetings, you'll see
still
how fast the
exists,
state runs.
and the problem exists, and until that's taken care of, all the good work that everybody's doing is still,
And look, it's gonna be a continual problem because trees will continue to fall. And stuff's still gonna get washed down to the bottom.
exactly.
I mean, it's like a filter screen, more or less. Everything's gonna get down to the bottom.
We know where the silt goes. We know where it goes there.
So the challenge that we have is getting that cleaned out, dredged out, reclaimed, whatever we're gonna call it.
Reclaim it 10, 15 foot deep, you know, whatever.
You know, maybe we could get some people to go down and get cypress logs and get them out.
But
Sink or
it
cyclist.
just seems like there would be some way to put that at the number one priority
There's,
over
I'm
Yeah.
sure there's
everything
some
that's going
endangered
on.
species
We
that we're
thought
gonna
that too.
interrupt if we go do that.
Speaking for Gravity Drainage District Two, I've been in the meetings where they mentioned that Army Corps of Engineers doesn't even want to talk about any permit. They say, don't even apply, don't ask, we're not going to even look at it.
I went through the Corps of Engineers to
They
get
close
a-
the door, they don't even accept permit.
How does Ascension, like, how they get New River through? That's all a full permit.
It all falls under,
Fair commercial.
merchant,
use.
merchant. It's all, they rotate it under financial. Like same way the Mississippi River gets dredged every year, because they gotta run commerce down it.
New River doesn't do any commerce.
They do something, one boat a year goes up down that thing for commerce
No,
or
that's a little
something.
bit
Yeah,
ditch.
it's
I'm just
fair
telling you.
commercial use.
They call
I'm
it
just
New
telling you.
River, but it's a ditch.
I'm just telling you.
They got a permit
might
to
be
drain
one-
Spanish Lake.
That's right, they did.
Yeah. They're not draining, they're not
I had to
dredging.
get a permit to build a dock off the side of the river, to build a, you know, for that to do it legally, and I did.
A permit through the parish or the
State.
Corps.
Corps?
State,
Mhm.
yeah.
Corps of Engineers has really got us in a chokehold right now.
Yeah, I know, it seems like, and I know that y'all aware of it, but if there was something that we could collectively do to get some more pressure.
If you have a suggestion, we're all ears. Pass it up the chain.
I think you're in a position to get more pressure than
I just want to ask Mr. McMorris, did you ever get an answer on where we at with the Egmet River
between.
Yeah, you, Mr. McMorris, did you ever get an answer?
So before I became the council, I got on the council to help people.
Yes, sir.
I'm not a politician. You can see how we I dress and everything else, but we was funded years ago for this project to be done. The dredging, the weir. We got millions and millions of dollars for this.
Where's it at?
Huh?
Where's it at?
That's a question. We were supposed to have somebody come to show us the models, what they plan on doing. That's how we found out the private land there. What we used to travel
On the end of the
when we
river?
was kids on the end of the river. We got to kill for the line, in the curve.
All right.
All right? So,
So you can
we
walk
still don't
through
have that answer.
I knew you were asking for it.
I ask you guys to reach out to Leighton, to his engineers, see if they come to y'all and give us that answer, what we're looking for, right? Because I can't answer the question. But I know it's paid for.
Well, I'll tell you this, if we make a motion and want to approach the administration, we'll come to you, because you're on the council.
Yes, sir. But we do ask, so, it's been months it's supposed to come.
But you're who we
Hopefully they'll
report
come.
to.
Huh?
You are who we report to.
I understand that fully.
Yeah.
My hands get tired too, right? So, but there was money approved for this.
Correct.
How long ago was the
Oh
time
my
frame?
God, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
It was before my time.
But we
Okay.
can't get,
Before Jim Haver, before Sonia Collins.
So it's unspent, what you're saying?
My understanding here is you're asking us to ask the council for information, which basically allows you to put it on their agenda, is that correct?
we're
That's
here,
correct.
yeah,
Okay, well, I'll make that motion.
we're here to make it public.
So hold on,
so
we
that
got a
something
motion.
moves
Hold on, we
forward.
got a motion.
Let's approach the
Second
council
it.
and ask for
I
this
second.
Hold
information.
on, let's see what the motion is.
That's it.
Thank you.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Morris is looking for information, and basically, he needs us to help him put it on the agenda for the council.
I second the motion.
So
We
let's
need to word the
clarify,
motion.
let's clarify
Yeah.
this motion.
Mr. Morris will come back and.
I'll make the
All
motion.
right, so
He wants
Come
you-
back and word
Mr.
the
Clemens wants to make a
for
motion
us.
for us to ask the council.
I clarify.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Take it, Mr. Howes.
We're gonna make them, would you like to rescind yours so I could do that?
Yeah, go ahead.
We have
Are
Mr.
we all
Howes.
we're all in agreement of rescinding yours?
Yes.
I'm making a motion that we have the council show us where we're at on the A-meet dredging of the mouth of the canal into the Lake Marcon.
Where the funding is?
Where we are standing to date with engineering, finance, everything. Same with Blind River. Or we could do it two separate ones, however y'all want to do it. It's the, okay, it's the same
Any
one.
permits from Corps of Engineers they
I
filed or
think
anything?
I see what you had.
We can't get an answer of where we're at what level we're at. No one will give us an, I've asked everybody, he's asked everybody, probably y'all have asked everybody. We can't get an answer. Somebody knows where we're standing.
Okay, we have a motion.
That's fine.
We have a second by Ms. Pat.
Absolutely.
Okay, take a vote. All for this motion to be presented to the council, say aye. Any nays? Motion carries. You said nothing?
Huh?
Did you say? I mean, if you did, I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
I'm good.
I mean, I will correct you.
We were talking behind the gavel. He and I.
Okay. Let's call roll.
Okay, Mr. Sibley,
Yes.
Mr. Waller,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens, Ms. Pat,
Yes.
Mr. Howes,
Yes.
Mr. McMorris.
Yes.
Mr. Carroll.
Yes.
Mr. Dempsey. Mr. Larson. Okay.
Yeah, he came in late. I don't know if he changed that for absentee.
And the motion carries, that's correct.
Yes.
All right, so we're at number 5. Any comments or concerns from anybody on the committee?
I just want to make a comment. I think we're getting somewhere. We're getting stuff done.
We're definitely making public knowledge.
Yeah.
I would entertain having a motion to get a Facebook nameplate put up here by our names of our new Facebook group. I would entertain that motion.
It says like us on Facebook at,
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, we can do that.
Could I get a motion?
Don't
We can
leave.
print one.
make a motion to make a Facebook group nameplate to be placed in front of Mr. Marler that says, like us on Facebook at Livingston Parish Citizens Drainage Committee.
Just have like a little, blah, blah,
A
blah.
piece of paper.
Whatever.
Something the TV, that camera right there picks up.
Yeah, just print them
Print off a piece of card.
in. I think this should be commercial.
Yeah.
Maybe this is our people.
Can, is that something that could just come up on the screen? It takes up all the screen or half the screen before we start?
You can superimpose it on there somehow?
He's saying yes.
It can be done, just gotta get permission.
So it's like a PDF or a
Or-
JPEG?
We can definitely.
What if you just put it on the bottom of the screen the whole time that we're
Yeah,
on?
certainly.
Who do we have to get permission from?
I'll find that out.
Let me redo the motion then. Let me redo the motion to
Just
say,
delete what you have and then we can just add to it.
I'll add to the motion.
Superimposed over.
I'll add to the motion to include superimposing on the bottom of the screen that stays up during the entire meeting, the same message.
That was motion.
I second.
We're about to get an answer, it sounds like.
A second for Mr. Howard.
Yep.
So all that are for this, say aye. Anyone opposed? No, so that carries as well.
I also want to make a comment that I really like. I don't know anything about these apps and all that Lauren was talking about, but the parish coming together, the different districts, having something that overlaps, works together. I'd like to know if what Lauren has, like you were talking about, would superimpose on what y'all have with the electrical, because it may be a benefit to all towns, Albany, Livingston.
I know Walker uses a form, we call it ESRI,
Yeah,
that's
that's what this is.
GIS. Is that ESRI?
She said it was GIS.
GIS, but ESRI is one of the.
This is ARCGIS. August.
Yeah, no, but I know that the city of Walker also uses a GIS system for their utilities and all kind of different functions that they use for. And you can build upon it. We started out very basic, and now we're adding to it, and it's something that can grow with the town. Now, the ESRI, the system that we use, their developers are always working because they're always wanting to upgrade and sell us stuff, but I find it very, very interesting. And I can see as Albany, as a very small municipality, how we can grow with this system. And if I can see that in the little municipality of Albany, I could imagine what help it would be informational-wise, asking for data and just having it going in and query this system. It's parish-wide. I truly embrace technology, and I think that this is something that could be very helpful in a lot of different areas, not just in drainage, but
Absolutely, 'cause
traffic
if-
studies or whatever it might be.
If somebody in Marpole, even though they're not in your district, if it could merge to your system,
Yes.
y'all are able to help each other to get the water out of Albany and not flood Marpole.
Yes, because, we had a really terrible issue in the city, and we had one elderly gentleman, 96 years old, lost his home in the 2016 flood, and FEMA came in and built him a brand new little house. And I can't tell you how many times he's gotten water in the northeast side of his house. They just built it too low. So when, his grandchildren came to me and said, what can you do? It looks like this is a choke point, using your word. So then Thompson and I got together and we looked to see if there was anything in the drainage that was causing the stoppage. We couldn't. Well, we found a culvert issue, that all of this water was coming here and it was being, it couldn't get away fast enough, so it was blowing manhole covers off. So we we took those out and put in a huge culvert that I think I could stand up in. And then we actually bought the property, or the property was donated to us, I'll take that back. And we pulled the culvert up, and we have not had, he has not had water in his house since then. But it was looking to see what was the problem. Where's those points? And it took us a while, but eventually we worked through that. But if we saw a problem, say in the Hungarian settlement, I'm north of the Hungarian settlement, if there was something that was causing them, then we could use that as a community, not as this is Albany and that's the Hungarian settlement, and then that's Springfield and that's Killian. That we could work all this together, put the information in there where we've got a problem here, put a little point on there, and we could have a conversation. And this happened on a Tuesday afternoon with a deluge of 4 inches of rain, and see where that initial problem started, instead of it's just in my backyard.
Could we actually use this Facebook page and start to, if the parish had a system parish-wide, start having people on the Facebook page group telling us what these points are, able to go into the system to make little dots or plots or whatever, maybe better.
That's part of our mission statement, as I understand it,
It
is
is.
helping the community with stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I know, what I'm saying is use the information that the whole parish was using.
We
have the
gotta
system to put it
get
into.
one system first.
See,
That's what I'm saying, if the whole parish was using a system, the Facebook page could help y'all determine choke points and everybody
Yeah.
downflow.
See, where I live in 2016, I didn't flood. I don't have any issues. There'll never be a point on the corner of Mulberry Road. But 2 blocks over, there is. There was an issue, and then, I addressed that one as well. But yes, I think that would be very, very useful. But I think Facebook would be a start. But I think we really need to get some intelligence here with these apps that can put all this information together, and you can ask for a report. You can actually probably download rainfall. It's just unbelievable what these applications can do, the data that they can gather, and then the reports that you can get from that.
That's my point. Like Lauren was saying, they have people paid to go in the field to mark these points, but if we got people on Facebook telling us what they are.
We can have citizens that would be.
They have to
have the app.
You have to have the app, you gotta
the
sign
phone.
into it.
You have to have the app.
And that's a whole nother deal with drainage too. As you heard her say, they had to go buy new phones. Because that's a whole nother level. When we give our superintendents and our foremen cell phones, we're liable for their internet access. Because in order to run the app, you gotta have internet access. The phones they have now have no data access other than texting them phones.
Oh, yeah, well, you gotta have a smartphone.
So now you
Yeah,
understand.
that's-
2020.
So just anybody can
You gotta
download
have
the
it.
But
app
as
and sign on.
a town leader, she understands the liability of them having internet access on their phones. So
Absolutely.
some of our guys will not even use the company phones because they don't want them. They just said, call us on our phones. We have no liability with y'all's, whatever. So some of them don't even want the company phone. But that is they have to
But
sign.
only our supervisors can actually use that application.
Right.
Now, we do work orders on it, and there's certain things you have to send them the
Well,
work orders.
with the
They're out in
program
the
drainage,
field.
one has, everyone that does the work orders has to have a smartphone.
Yes,
So all of them have, that's another thing, is
yes.
you have to have, so I'm just saying there's more issues when you go to these programs.
It is, but you have to embrace technology.
Yes.
You
Yes,
have
you
to,
do.
and I know there are downfalls to all of this, but the overall good of it, you know,
See, this comes back to the unfunded districts. As Gerald talked about, the unfunded districts, if they had access to one or two phones that could talk to Jill, we could be doing this. And we could have citizens that could check out a phone, map the waterway, turn it back in.
I have a question for you. The following that you had, how old were the
Government program
culverts that were
specific.
laid? So my question being,
What are we doing?
are they old and dilapidated?
no, they were not dilapidated, and they were, we addressed all of that. And it was just that we got lots of ditches and old culverts drained down. I mean, old culverts pulled up,
Yeah, that's what I'm
ditches
saying.
drained, then all of a sudden, it was just lots of water coming where, it was getting it away from other people, but it had to cross 43 and it had to get back to Little Natali. And so when we kept looking at what is the problem here, then that's.
So it was an infrastructure problem, the
Yes.
pipe not being big enough.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
that, going into.
And it took us 2 tries at it.
Correct. So what
Yes.
my perspective of this is, stuff down south, a lot of it's probably never been changed
Mhm.
over 60 years. It's probably silted in. You probably can't even find some of the culverts. So if it's never been maintained, the water has nowhere to go to start. So that's part of the problem.
But by, like I say, embracing the system, we can
Correct.
pinpoint
Correct.
all of that. And, you know, it still doesn't take care of Mall Pond, like Pontchartrain, and that is a Garrett grade.
But
That's
it's a
way above
step.
my pay grade. But it is, at least we will get, that's what this board is about, is getting a handle on it.
You have
knowing-
data. Hey, we have these 4
Yes.
places that are having
And-
problems. What's causing it?
Yes, because where I live, I don't have a problem, but I do know there's a lot of people that do.
And if you can have those pins, you have a direction to look at. Hey, what's causing this problem?
I'm very, very impressed with technology and what's available out there for municipalities, for governmental entities to keep up with information they already know and then to add to that and to develop a plan. And it takes a lot, it's very man-hourly costly as far as man-hours are concerned initially. But in the end,
Have to get it
it's
set up.
much, much more efficient.
As you know, your foreman leaves next month. He left with all his knowledge. Now you have it on the data.
Yes.
The problem we deal with constantly is everything's handwritten and up here.
I have told him he cannot leave.
Well,
Until it all
it's
gets
not,
done.
say he falls over, whatever. I'm
Yes.
just saying, talking about now, that's what we're trying, we're in the process of our superintendent is, he's finishing December. He's not up for all this upgraded stuff for his last 4 months of the thing. So really all our technology upgrade is gonna start in January because he's not gonna learn all that stuff for 4 months. I mean, he would if we made him, but it's kind of why make him do it when the next guy's gonna deal with it. So it's there, he's leaving with so much knowledge that's all in paperwork or in his head, because there is no, it's not on the computer. I mean, that's why we're going now to work orders in computer, work orders on emails, it's all in a system.
They take a picture of what they've done and
Where they started, where they stopped.
where they started and where they stopped, and if they have any problems, and that is downloaded in that work order. We know.
And what people don't understand is, we do some of our major issues, we have to do monthly, because it's the choking point monthly. If you don't clean it up, it's your main problems. So people don't understand, we just did that 6 months ago. Exactly, it was a big problem 6 months ago. Trees fell, they right back where they're at. We know what it's gonna do if we don't clean it out right
We
now.
all-
So it's
there's-
repetitive, it tells you where to do repetitive services too.
We know where to go to, so if there's a hurricane out there brewing, and we got a pretty sure the cone of certainty is coming right in the middle of Livingston Parish. There's certain places that we send our teams to go and check, because we flooding issue or whatever it might be, but he just recognized
Do
it.
y'all do y'all's road service? Y'all handle the road ditches of Albany or
No,
does
the
it stay?
I'm sorry.
Parish handles your roads? or-
Parish.
Okay, so it doesn't matter. The grapple truck's the best thing we bought since we've been. Is in, you find somebody calls you on drainage, they drive up there, reach in, pull it out, and gone in 30 minutes. Versus 3 men showing up for hours trying to get it unstuck.
Yes, sir.
Make sure that everybody knows, through the OSU website, you can look up flood map on any particular flood address.
Yeah, the LSU ag. LSU ag.
Just so everybody, anybody that maybe doesn't know everywhere.
You can drop a pin in and tell you the elevation of that
If
area.
you, not just your address, you can move over to other areas.
Everybody.
It is good app.
Yes. Anything else from anyone? Get a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.